So the question often comes up, what does it mean to leave a legacy? And I think that each of us leaves a legacy, whether we choose to believe that or not. The very act of living and the very act of touching people's lives with our thoughts, with our words, with the things that we do, leaves a legacy, good or bad. No one gets out of leaving a legacy. It's a product of living a life. So the deeper question becomes not will you leave a legacy, but what legacy do you choose to leave? And when you choose to leave a legacy, you're able to pour all of the passion that you feel for something, all of your talents and skills into it. And in a sense, you're allowed to pick up a paintbrush and paint the canvas of what the future looks like. It's akin to throwing a stone in the water. And the ripples that come out from it go far beyond that tiny point where the stone actually marries the water. The ripples spread out, and sometimes they intersect with other ripples that have from other stones that have been thrown in the water. And over time, they transform themselves into waves that are strong enough that they can literally carry the next generation to a place, a distant shore in an unexplored country that they would have never gotten to without that legacy. The question is not, will you leave a legacy? The question is, what legacy do you choose to leave?
As I grew up here, I learned that McHenry County might just look like flat land, farmland, but it really is a multifaceted gem of the world, as I like to say, because we have significant flora, fauna, protected species, unbelievable game animals, whether that's deer or waterfowl or turkey or whatever it may be. Just this part of the world possesses a lot of neat things, not only from as I said before, a habitat or just streams, rivers, creeks, prairies, some oaks and woods, and then of course all the animals. And I think just all those things really resonate with who I am and what I like to do when I'm not working or focusing on my profession. So those things all combined, my generation, my personal interest, and just my level of comfort and connection with the area and the history of the area really make me want to be here and stay here forever. It'd be really hard to move. I've been offered the opportunity to move from my job several times and progress in my career, and I've declined because I am so tribal to the area. So, I love bringing my kids outside. I think it's just such a release. So we do everything we possibly can outside. Hiking in the woods, just looking for tracks of birds and deer, and just, sledding, skiing, whatever it may be, just anything to get outside and breathe some fresh air. And so I think that much like my dad, I appreciate the diverse opportunities that we have to be outside in McHenry County. And then what really makes it special for me is that my kids are little enough that they still have that glow and that excitement and the big eyes when they see an animal or a bird or something really special. The outdoors has helped shape me, who I am as a person, what things are important to me, whether it's teaching people things through the outdoors, doing charitable work or volunteering. I love to volunteer for the district even though I'm not on the board anymore. And so exposing them to the outdoors and letting that outdoor experience shape who they are in kind of those same categories that I just explained, that volunteering is important, being a good steward to the land is important. And so that outdoor experience offers more than just saying, hey, let's have fun and play outside. It teaches them a lot of different, what I believe to be life skills that will help shape who they are in the future as an adult. I think that's one thing that kids miss, is knowing that there are so many different avenues for conservation for them to experience or the outdoors to experience, and just purely just offering it up, showing them what's available and letting them make choices. I kind of equate it to my kids. We put vegetables on the table and we don't expect them to eat all those vegetables, but they pick out the ones that they like. And I think that's the kind of legacy that I want to leave. I want to lift up and post up all the different outdoor experiences that there are, or things that you can do outside, or to be conservation minded or to recreate, and let them choose which ones are important to them. But I think it's the exposure that are the most important things.
When I was a kid, I was a conservationist. And in the neighborhood where I grew up, in a small town in northern Ohio, a housing development was scheduled to come in about 4 blocks from our house. My buddies and I were upset that that would be our woods, we call it our woods, would be destroyed. And so we dug up bur oak seedlings or white oak, any kind of oak we could get a hold of from a vacant lot. Took them in our wagons down over there and went up and down that place, planting these little oak seedlings, because when those trees grow up, that'll make it harder for them to build houses and make roads. It would hurt us to think that we had charge of 120 acres and we allowed it to be destroyed in any way. So that was fundamental. But there were other good reasons too. I mean, we soon developed sentiment for it because we still talk about things that happened in her summer camp. And so there's a library of memories that are right. We figure our 3 kids didn't need it. They didn't need the money from selling it. They had jobs. Like I had a job and you had a job. And it would be nice to give them something when we're gone, but they don't need it. And there's a lot of folks, people that need open space in the county, and poor people all over the world that need it. Open space is one of the answers to a better lifestyle for everybody. And so, you know, it was a slam dunk when we got the farm. We were never going to have houses on this. People can begin to take care of the land and where they are, starting with what they can do. If it's sitting in a deer stand and appreciating the beauty of nature, which one of our deer hunters who hasn't had a deer for 2 or 3 years.
But he loves going out there.
He came back from sitting in the stand the other day. He almost sounded reverent in his feelings about sitting out there close to the district land in a tree stand and enjoying the afternoon. So there's so many ways you can do it. Feeding birds in your backyard, or voting for the conservation district, or serving on a committee of the conservation district, or contributing to some open space agency. It's mind-boggling, the possibilities. But the thing that's important, and that's why it's good to keep reminding ourselves, is to maybe take one more step. One more step.
I think in general, one of the guiding things for me is that I hope to leave the world a better place when I leave than when I entered it.
And I like what Alice said, to leave the world a little better than it was when we came. I think for me that's a sufficient legacy. Maybe not a little better, maybe quite a bit better. And the longer we live, the more time we have to make it better.
Both from the standpoint of intellectual development and curiosity, this whole business that we've been talking about offers enormous opportunity for the individual, for self-aware development, and even in my case, it resulted in something worthwhile that I could accomplish. The other side of it is the opportunity to bring in other people then into it. Your enthusiasm and your information, there are others. It goes back to Joyce Purvix and Bill Wingate and the Hohensteins, and all of those folks were there early in this movement, and their enthusiasm just keeps filtering out. And as long as you have that, I mean, there are absolutely no end. There's no end in sight for opportunities for increasing the educational value of these sites and the recreational value of these sites. I can't think of a more interesting place on earth than McHenry County. Myself, it's incredible what's there and yet to be discovered. I know I could go out there tomorrow and find something pretty exciting, pretty new. It was the greatest experience of my life. It was just walking out of my front door and being able to know that I was going to find some rare fern like ebony spleenwort that I never heard of when I found it, or poke milkweed. Whoever saw a poke milkweed? I wish I could live 100 more years. I would have no concern about being able to personally attract people to the movement, but it's more, the McHenry County way was just get really good people who knew and loved the idea of biodiversity and the intricacies of the ecosystem that's under your feet, and talk about it to other people. You couldn't help but attract them. But it's really been fun. And it's been made possible by interacting, with people. It's not a business. It's not like ordinary things. This is a calling. And there will be people who will answer the call. No doubt about it in my mind. In fact, maybe better.
Always loved science, liked being outdoors. I knew that much. It was my AP biology teacher, Carrie Grove, who kind of showed me the pamphlet, Environmental Science of Lewis at Lewis University. She's like, you'd be good at this, or this is something I think you'd be interested in and should go into or look into. And I remember too, that same year we took a field trip through MCCD at Prairie View Education Center, and I loved it. And I think she saw that in me, and so she gave me that pamphlet, started the wheel turning in my head. About 7 years ago, I was an intern with Tom Simpson under him, which really started my career in restoration and ecology, and just had me thinking so differently, and really sparked a really deep connection too, because we would go on hikes and it was kind of unstructured hikes sometimes, and then he would interpret the landscape in all these unique and eye-opening ways that I was like, oh my gosh, this is right here under my feet. I always thought like nature was someplace very exotic, and that's where you learn all the best, figure out all the discoveries, and yet it's right here in McHenry County, which was pretty amazing. I think it's important for individuals to have time to, in a sense, debrief about, it could be, a spiritual reason, or about themselves, about their life. You get a lot when you're amongst ancient trees and just landscapes in general, which is really fascinating how these processes have occurred, geologically speaking, and that they've been here for 10,000 years. And they're still here, and we get to walk among these hills and moraines. It's just really fascinating, and to learn a lot spending time outdoors with them, outdoors in it. And also think it's important because kind of human nature, it's how we've evolved as a species too, to connect with other species. I've always thought that aha moment was like, I get it, yay! Very in your face, and it's not. It takes time, and it shows through sometimes an individual coming back. Sometimes it's not them coming back, but saying, I had a great time. I really am inspired to look into it more or go into this field. Or maybe running into them like 2 years later and you're just talking about what you've both been doing, and it's a process for sure. I think mainly I see myself just being part of promoting a healthy earth ecosystem. Right where I live, I've traveled a lot, and I've always come back to a sense of place, a sense of home, being home. So I think it's really unique where I am right now in my life, that I'm pretty much right where I need to be.
I think we also always wanted to have something to live beyond us. We're very short-lived here, and to have something that carries on way beyond us. It's not even so much about leaving something to our personal children, because they're off, creating their own life and doing a good job of it, but something that we can really work at, that's worthwhile, that puts something back onto the landscape that will have some continuity far beyond our years here. So that wonderful quote by E.O. Wilson, that each species is exquisitely designed to do its job on Earth. And here, hopefully, when the pieces are put back together and nature is really living here again, they'll all be free to do the job they were designed to do, or they evolved to do. Everything fell into place for this one, and so we're a little old to get started, but what the heck, better to use ourselves up in a great project than, be really tired at the end of the day.
Over the years, I've restored a couple old houses, I've restored an old car, I've restored an old airplane. But when I did that old crop field and turned it into a prairie, it loved me back. None of those other things did anything but take, and want more. But you go out there and in that prairie, and you look at the pollinators that had no place. They didn't even exist in that area until we put it in the prairie. The dragonflies that are flying around, the butterflies, all the birds that are there now throughout the year. In the dead of winter, they've got plenty of food because all the prairie seeds are there. None of that existed, and so I feel like the work that you put into it, it's being returned to you in a very personal way. And so I wanted to multiply it. It was such a wonderful feeling. We both wanted to multiply that, and that's what we've done. Hopefully, that's what will be done here. That was a 10-acre prairie. This is 7 times that big. We hope that the return will be every bit as satisfying. I'm sure it will be. So what's important is that maybe school kids can come out here. A certain percentage of them might get bit by the bug to do a similar thing, or to turn their lives over to something that's nature related. Maybe we can this land will be a part of that. But as far as associating with a personal legacy, that really is not a consideration.
No, that's never been important to either one of us.
That's not important. This is way bigger than the two of us could ever be.
Really, I guess I think the world is in enough trouble that none of us can sit down on this. I think we all need to take an active part and do something for the world, just for the world. But certainly those of us that are able to, that can do something a little bigger. Great satisfaction in doing it, but it's also incredibly important that people that can do it. It's really, I think at this point in time and where our world is, it's our obligation as well as our privilege to do the right thing, to do something that moves on beyond us and actually helps to restore the world.
We need those subcultures of conservationists of all the different diverse perspectives and interests of the district to help share the message of conservation and the importance of it, and sharing all those special interests with everybody. I think that's probably the biggest learning experience that I got from being on the board, was valuing diverse perspectives of multi-use users in conservation, or people that just like to watch birds or ski or fish or hunt or whatever they may do, or ride horses. So I think the biggest complexity is bringing all those perspectives together, cascading the same message about conservation, because they'll touch people that are interested in their dynamic, I'll touch people that are interested in my dynamic, and really bringing that whole piece of pie together of everyone. So I really think the community is responsible. The district can give us a structure and can give us direction and tools, but it's really the community's responsibility to cascade that message and involve people, educate, engulf them, you know, in that outdoor experience. And the story is one that resonates with me, and I tell it all the time whenever I can. And it goes like this. There's a little boy on a beach, and he's walking down a beach on a hot summer day, and the tide has gone away, and there's starfish all along the beach, and he's picking them up one by one, and he's throwing them back into the water. And an older gentleman is walking toward the young boy with a smirk on his face and says to the little boy, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm picking up all these starfish and throwing them back because if I don't, the sun will kill them, because they're not going to have any water and they won't get pulled back in time." And so the old man chuckles and shrugs his shoulders and says, "Surely you're not going to be able to make a difference. There's millions of them all up and down the beach." And the little boy, innocent, picks up one of the starfish, throws it back in the water, and says to the man, "I made a difference in that one's life." So I tell that story because I think that no matter how big or small of an impact we make in conservation, it matters. And we can continually build that on for generations to come, and do everything we can to educate our local community and future generations on the importance of conservation, and working cohesively and collectively toward a common goal of conservation and outdoor recreation.